Ah, Traveler. Looks like someone's been busy exploring Fontaine. Make sure to dry yourself off completely before coming in. We don't want to get any of the cards wet. This is Professor Bleb. Welcome to another Invokation Akademy Review Session where we go over all the new content in the latest patch. First, we'll look at the 3 new character cards coming in version 4.0 along with some deck ideas to try. Then we'll go over the new action cards and finally end with a summary of all the balance changes on existing cards. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the next 5-star to join TCG. Oh wait, no, looks like we lost 50-50, it's Qiqi. Qiqi's skill creates a 3-use summon that does 1 cryo damage. Additionally, while active, normal attacks made by Qiqi will heal the character that's taken the most damage by 1. Note that this isn't the same as lowest health, and can matter for cards that have lower max HP like Laocho. Her bursts cost 3 cryo and 3 energy, dealing 3 cryo damage on hit and provides your team with a talisman buff that heals your active character for 2 HP whenever they use any skill. This triggers 3 times for a total of 6 HP. The effect is similar to Bennett's burst, but can heal you past 7. Her talent card uses her burst and costs a whopping 5 cryo, 2 more than the base skill. But when equipped, anytime Qiqi uses her burst, she'll revive any fallen characters at 2 HP. Now this can only happen 2 times per talent, but theoretically you could equip a new talent to refresh the effect. Okay, we have to pause here. This card is incredibly funny, but unfortunately revive effects like this just aren't very good. Partly because these characters don't come back with any items they had equipped previously. That and costing 5 dice means you'll probably not be able to do much else during your turn, and it's likely your opponents can just finish off Qiqi and the revived characters right away in the same turn. Having said that, I'd encourage you to just try it for fun, and it's actually great if you ever use her burst a second time because then you get the revive without the additional dice cost, if you can last that long. But if you're trying to win, you're better off leaving it out. Qiqi's skill is actually quite strong and has a lot of cryo application potential, but triggering the heal does require you to stay on Qiqi and normal attack, which leaves her pretty vulnerable. However, it does give you an obvious way to get to 3 energy to use her burst, which is also very powerful. The main trick is to keep her alive. So, what better way to do that than to play double Hydro Stall? Stacking both Aquila and Tenacity on Qiqi makes her incredibly hard to kill, effectively giving 4 health a turn. Not only that, the damage bonus from Aquila is actually relevant as you're looking to normal attack with Qiqi as well. Once you get to that first burst, you'll often heal Qiqi back up to full extremely quickly and just in time to burst straight away again and repeat the whole thing, all the while doing actual good damage. And having access to freeze can really help delay the opponent's game plan as well, giving you some more time to set up for her burst. Okay, now that we got spooked by Qiqi, the next one is guaranteed to be Albedo. Albedo's skill creates a 3-use summon that does 1 geo damage. Additionally, while active, once around, plunging attacks will cost you 1 less unaligned element. His talent card uses his skill, and while equipped will cause plunging attacks to deal 1 additional damage. Overall, while the plunge attack discount can help you generate energy on another character a little bit easier, in general it's not worth building around, so I don't recommend using his talent or focusing on this part too much. His bursts cost 3 geo and only 2 energy, dealing 4 damage, but increases to 6 if the summon from his skill is still on the field. With the summon lasting 3 rounds, this is actually really easy to trigger, and his burst is actually a really powerful part of his kit. This is why one deck I've particularly enjoyed with Albedo is pairing him with Raiden and Qiqi. Raiden's skill combines perfectly with Albedo to trigger crystallizes at end of turn and has the same amount of usages. It also has the benefit of buffing your burst damage, getting Albedo up to 7. The game plan of this deck is very aggressive. You're looking to drop both summons from Raiden and Albedo early on, and then use Liu Su or Electro Resonance to get Albedo up to that 2nd energy right away for a burst. From here, the plan is to get that 2nd energy on Raiden and burst and let Albedo burst a 2nd time right away. You can do this a couple of ways. There's the discounted plunge attack that you get from Albedo's skill. Alternatively, you could use Emblem or Electro Resonance to generate that 2nd energy too. And Qiqi is there to clean up, as it's pretty common to leave characters at 3 HP with these combos, which is perfect for the piercing damage on her burst. And last but not least, Lisa finally joins the other Knights of Phoneus in TCG. Her main mechanic is Conductive, which is a status that you apply on opposing characters. The first time this effect is applied from any source, this starts off at 2 stacks and then increases by 1 if it's applied again or naturally at the end of each round, up to a max of 4 stacks. Her skill only deals 2 electro damage, but will consume any conductive stacks to deal +1 additional damage for every stack. This means at full stacks, she can do 6 damage to a character with just her skill. So, how do you apply Conductive? Well, there's 3 ways. One is simply to use her skill when there are no conductive stacks, and this will immediately start you off at 2. Another is by performing a charged attack with her normal attack. And the third way is with her talent card, which costs 1 Electro, and when equipped will apply whenever you switch into Lisa. Finally, her burst doesn't actually interact with Conductive, but will do 2 Electro damage initially, leaving a 2-use summon, dealing 2 Electro damage each round. While her kit sounds kind of complicated, her play pattern is pretty straightforward. You want to find a way to apply Conductive and then trigger it for damage. Easy. The fact that Conductive increases by itself during the end phase is really important. Most of the time, you'll want to find time to apply Conductive early and then let it build over 2 more turns to max. Because of this, Lisa does also tend to play best in a stall type deck that can apply Conductive early and then prolong the game, letting it build up over time. Mona is great here too, as her fast swap allows you to threaten your opponent with Lisa anytime if they swap into a character that has a lot of conductive charges. And Electro Charge is also the perfect reaction to deal damage for standby characters who might be hiding away because of their conductive stacks. Okay, now with the characters out of the way, onto the new cards. One of these is a brand new Arcane card, Joyous Celebration. It's a bit of a weird one. For 1 dice, when played, the element of your active character, except a Nemo or Geo, will be applied to all of your characters. That's right, you heard that correctly, all of your characters. So this is our first cleanse card, but the fact that it applies to your whole team and not just one character is actually a big downside. While you may be removing 1 or 2 elemental applications, you're very likely to be also adding 1 or 2 onto your other characters. And all this costs you not only a card, but also your Arcane card for the whole game. Outside of some very niche interactions in specific PvE challenges, you're definitely better off avoiding this card. Sataria draws you a total of 3 cards, but the catch is you get cards 1 at a time and only if your hand is empty at the time. Unfortunately, that's a pretty steep condition, as you lose your ability to keep cards to tune for later. It may have a place in some really aggressive decks with lots of 0-cost cards, but otherwise you're better off sticking with existing card draw. The next 3 cards adds even more weapon synergy to Genius Invocation, and we'll look at them together. The first one is Golden House. Once a round, this will discount any 3-cost weapon or artifact you play by 1, and while it only works once a round, you do get 2 uses out of it, making it quite powerful as it nets you 2 dice when used. This card looks really great for all of the stall decks that are already running 3-cost weapons alongside Tenacity of the Millith, and the fact that it can discount artifacts as well is huge. I expect this to see a lot of play, particularly in conjunction with our next card, King Squire. This is a new bow that adds +1 damage, but when played it reduces the cost of your next elemental skill by 2. Note that this specifically only affects the elemental skill, not normals or burst. But because of the discount, the best way to think about this is essentially a 1-cost weapon for +1 damage buff, which is actually very strong. And of course, since it's 3 cost, it means it works with Golden House that we just saw, and combined this will make it a free play. And saving the best for last, my favorite card in version 4.0, Where is the Unseen Razor? This has a really funky effect, letting you return an equipped weapon and reducing the cost of the next weapon you play by 2. Okay, you might be wondering why I'm so excited for this effect. It seems pretty pointless, right? You're just putting the weapon back in your hand and playing again. Well, remember Fruit of Fulfillment from the last patch, and now also King Squire? Both of these have effects when played, and you can reuse those effects with Unseen Razor. When used on Fruit of Fulfillment, you can draw 2 more cards for just 1 dice, effectively turning it into Strategize. And when used on a King Squire, it costs 1 dice to replay it, then you get to use a skill for 1, which means you're essentially getting a 1 dice discount on an elemental skill, turning Unseen Razor into a Woven type effect. But the fun doesn't stop there, both of these are 3-cost weapons as well, so if you have a Golden House out, it's actually free now to replay it. While this deck doesn't feature any new characters, this Quicken deck built with weapons in mind is not only fun to play, but actually really strong. It is a little hard to play, so I'd recommend avoiding it if you're a beginner player, but if you enjoy playing combo decks and other TCGs, this is one that you have to try. Finally, we have the balance changes. No character cards were changed, but we do have quite a lot of updates to some old cards. First, all of the elemental artifacts were updated in this version. The 3-cost set were buffed to now only cost 2 aligned dice. The effect though is the same, and unfortunately, even though the discount is great, it doesn't quite push them into playable range. I'd still recommend against including these in your decks, unless you're literally trying to make a mono element deck. Additionally, the 2-cost sets were also buffed from 2 aligned to 2 unaligned dice, but because the dice count didn't change, the difference isn't very big. And pretty much now, if you're going to play these cards, you should just use the more powerful version as they cost the same amount of dice. Emblem of Severed Fate got a pretty similar buff, going down from 3 unaligned to 2 aligned dice. This one might actually see some play, since at 2 cost it's very close to being an Adeptus Temptation, just 1 damage short, but you do get that extra energy effect. However, I'm much more excited for the smaller version, which also got buffed from being 2 unaligned to only 1 die. While this one doesn't buff burst damage, I actually think this is much more exciting change, as the difference from going from 2 to 1 cost is actually much greater than going from 3 to 2. One way to think about it is you can effectively now turn this into an Electro Resonance on any character, provided they aren't already equipped with a different artifact and you have a character burst ready to use. You'll notice I included these just for that effect in the Albedo deck earlier. I definitely encourage you to try both of these out. There's a lot of potential here for some fun decks chaining bursts with Raiden. Vermilion and Shimenawa also got slightly adjusted, going from 3 aligned to 3 unaligned cost. Since the count of dice hasn't really changed, there's really not that much more reason to play these if you're not already playing them. One other card that got a dice adjustment is Jade Chamber, which is now free to play at 0 dice. Now, I know this card is a bit topical for some players, but that's something for another lesson. Overall, even at 0, I'd recommend players avoid running Jade Chamber when they can and rely on other methods of fixing dice. It's definitely better than before, but still not better than the other options out there. Inazuma Resonance or Thunder in Eternity got an interesting change. It now creates all Omni dice instead of the dice of your active character. This is actually quite an upgrade and makes this card quite strong. In most cases, the effect will be pretty similar to what you had before, but generating Omni gives you a little bit more flexibility to switch between characters for those plays. It also prevents you messing up unintentionally, maybe converting all of your dice into the wrong element, so overall, a very nice change. And we haven't finished yet. The last card is the one and only I Haven't Lost Yet. This card got a huge change to now be limited to only 1 use per round. That's right, no more getting surprised by double I Haven't Lost Yet bursts out of nowhere. This is actually a huge change for tournament play, and I think is a great change overall, as it can be one of the more frustrating cards to lose to, particularly at a high stakes event. And that's it for today's review session. Hopefully you feel better prepared for the new content in 4.0 and are excited to try out all the new characters, cards, and decks. If you are a newer player, be sure to attend the TCG 101 series to level up your Genius Invocation game. If there's anything you'd like to see in an upcoming video, drop a comment and I'll see how I can help. Be sure to enroll in our courses by subscribing so you can be notified when a new lesson's available. Until then, class dismissed!